problem.
So, welcome to the Holacracy Practice Guild in April 2023. And yeah, let's start with a brief check-in round, and I will share this Miro board link with you guys, so you can fill in your infos meanwhile if you want to. So you can, for example, here I'll show you in the upper left corner. There's these introductions, so you can grab a card here, one of these below, and fill out what's your name, what's the company or organization you're on, which country, and how many years of practice, if any, do you bring to the table, right? And later we use this to create the agenda and address the things that we want to address today. Brazil, nice. Okay, let's start with I can start. So yeah, my name's Dennis. You both know me to some degree. Dan, you have watched the videos I see. So yeah, I'm a coach at Expreneurs, a Swiss company. Oh, Jonah is joining. That's nice.
Hey. Friends and family here.
Hello, Jonah.
Hola.
We're just starting. We're just starting the chicken round. They are all my favorite chicken round. Yeah, so I work at a Swiss company. I'm originally from Germany, living in the north of Germany, and so what else? I've been involved with Holacracy for a while and happy with it. So yeah, that's me. Pass it on to you, Dan. Would you care to introduce yourself? What brought you here, and how are you here?
Well, hello everyone. We know each other except Dennis, but I had some interaction with him on LinkedIn. Yeah, I've been working on GaiaNet for the last 3 years, and we started using Holacracy there. The first 2 years, we thought we were doing a great job, and then we met some professional facilitators, and then we realized, like, oh, okay, we have a lot to learn. So I think we improved a lot over the last year, and I've watched the previous, I think all of the recordings of your guilds here, and I found them wildly fascinating, so they drew me to be here. I learned a lot from all of you, and excited to be here. So great. Passing it on to Christiane.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, brief check-in. I'm back in Greece after a wild first quarter of this year. Been to America twice, been to Germany, been to the Netherlands, been to Vienna, been now back in Greece for, it seems, almost 6 or 7 weeks until the Integral European Conference. If your questions, Dennis, well, let me choose which company and let me choose which country. So that's a bit to my nomadic lifestyle. Currently, I'm very much engaged in PowerShift journeys, but I show up here from what I call Christiane's place, because that's kind of more my anchor. From where I kind of reach out to everywhere. Enjoyed the last couple of guilds that I think I participated in a lot, and really great to see you here, Dan. And yeah, Jonah's not really here yet, but so good to see you. And I think I actually have a Holacracy related question today. So looking forward to this.
Nice. Jonah. The chicken
round. Yeah, good to see you guys. I know everybody personally, each of you. Actually, personally, I only met Christiana, but the rest of you, I'm in close, relation. So, do I need to introduce myself? I'm Jonah. I think that's enough. I'm a purpose agent, and I am a true believer in the PowerShift ecosystem, that it's still not taken off. But I'm here to make it work somehow. And I'm really happy to be here today, because I actually been doing some research for PowerShift people. And I would like to add, when the time comes, to add a few questions that would help me start validating an MVP for a new MVP for PowerShift people and just.work. So I know that all the people that it's involved in this meeting is really knowledgeable of it and have great perspectives, and I'm really looking forward for it. So great to be here. Can't believe that it has been another month since the last time.
Time flies when you're having fun. Okay, so the way this works for your info, I mean, you've seen the videos maybe. So we build an agenda by using one of the top right corner things, the stickies. You can write your name, a topic, just 1 or 2 words, and your name, and then we collect the items for triage, and then you process them, and we do the checkout.
I'm picking up my computer and I'm going to do that now. So if you bear with me for a little bit, I'll do this. Isn't it funny that this is the only activity that it's actually active in just.work? I mean, there's nothing else happening there except for this amazing guild of people coming together to learn.
Well,
not for long. You wanted to announce something, Dennis? Maybe that you're also dropping up? Oh.
no. God forbid, no. No.
I have bad news for you, Jonah. This is the last one.
No. It ain't. Damn it. Okay, let's start. And we can always add to the agenda, as you know. So let's start with Dan, our new guest. So what's on your mind? What do you need? Innovation. Let's draw it down here.
I think there's multiple tensions here. I'm not entirely sure, so I'm just going to elaborate, and I'm sure you guys are going to help me unpack it a little bit. It's about how you evolve the organization, how you innovate. And particularly when you have, well, in our case with Guynet, we have full-timers, we have part-timers, there are different paces between people. And I'm kind of curious, like, I know it's not written in the Constitution how it works, so I guess the answer is be pragmatic, but I'd like to understand some perspectives how it works for all of you. And particularly, how do individuals choose their next actions and create their projects? I know they're sensed in the moment, right? But there needs to be some cohesion between each other, and you need to have some goals and some direction. Or do you have no business plan on Holacracy, and does everybody just do their things and you only use strategy and a compass? Like, and the thing is, we've had some tensions about this of people, and I must explicitly say that they're less experienced in self-organization, so they have a more traditional mindset, and bring that also into the conversations and into the work. And that creates kind of confusion for me. Like, at some point, I also just want to let them go, let them do their thing, and not bring it all the time back to try to train them into the sense and respond mode. But how do you keep it together when there's differences in people, experience, and your practice level? And yeah, how does that work? And do you have any perspective?
Yeah.
Can I ask you something, Dan?
Huh?
Yes.
What's that?
Can I ask you something? Can you please give an example on when, like a real life example, when have you seen this, like a real scenario, a real situation?
Yeah, so we have, for example, Yannick, he's working on the ecosystem mapping research, is a service, a product that we are developing, which is network navigation tools. And we have a circle lead creating a strategy, and we have a guy who's a growth strategist. And we've had many strategy sessions and meetings and talking about the direction of our organization. And when the circle lead proposes certain strategy, some people sometimes feel crossed or they don't feel heard in that, where everything is being collected together. And to the point that there was like one guy, the growth strategist, feeling more ownership over this part of strategy or something. And that created also a lot of, yeah, just misalignment between each other. And at some point, how we recovered was getting back together with Floris and Alexander, who've been with Guynet for the longest period, and using the concept of the distiller, which we also learned from Christiani. And with the three of us, finally made like a conclusion and a direction, which was the final strategy that the circle lead proposed. But I feel that both Yannick, who was doing the ecosystem research, and Craig, the growth strategist, were not entirely happy with how that went.
Yes. Cristiano, you want to chime in?
Yeah. If I may, I'd like to chime in because I'm a little bit, at least on the edge of that tension. I know a little bit about it. And I find, just answering from the practice perspective, like how do I experience strategy in the self-organized entities that I work with. And that certainly does not live in a role. Just the final suggestion of, the circle lead has an accountability around strategy. And there is a process, strategy process that enhances and integrates collective intelligence, meaning all role fillers of a circle participate in that process. And it's an emergent process. And what emerges from that process turns into strategy. And that is the strategy for the circle. That strategy serves purpose. And it's not sort of I think it's not a personal thing. You participate from your roles and bring in your contributions to that process from role, and that is an emergent process. And then it's sense and respond. If the strategy feels off, any circle member can call for a new strategy meeting to check whether the strategy needs to be updated, bringing in real life information of what works and what isn't working. And that is an evolutionary process where you repeat it. Now there's no rule around that because it's a sense and respond, but it does make sense to kind of have a rhythm around that, like every 6 months or so. The process doesn't take very long, and it's a real good reality check. And I think that the predict and control mindset that seeps into when you have an understanding of strategy, like you have it in the, in a normal, I would say, a conventional organization, really is a letting go process. That's a deep personal learning process. And it always comes back to what you address. It's that I think from my experience, there's a threshold that, in the learning process, people bump against that threshold over and over again until they're finally ready to go, boop. Okay, so now I can let go and allow for the emergence of self-organization. I would never, I would have, as a role filler and as roles, I would have a really big tension if it were one role's accountability to define strategy, because it's just one perspective, and the circle consists of multi-perspectives. And I think so. Dennis is putting out the strategy meeting process. I think I've shared it with you guys.
Yeah, we did it with you. That was wonderful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was great.
And every circle does that. And a circle that doesn't have its own strategy inherits the strategy of the super circle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think I can just underline that. So if you, of course, if you involve everybody in its participatory process, an emergent process where the strategy kind of bubbles up from all of us, then of course the identification with that strategy, once settled upon, is much greater, and the understanding why this is a good direction for the organization to go to. So I would always advise to do that process. And I also know the other kind of tension, the tension around having or not having a business plan. Frankly, we've had that conversation at Encode, I remember. While I was in my more
just
active...
check Glassfrog. Check Glassfog. It's
check
easy.
Glassfog. It's a business plan.
Check Glassfog, man. It's easy.
And it was unsatisfying for me too, because it's a different, because there's some level between the purpose and concrete projects, which is kind of, you can say that that's the level of strategy, or sometimes objectives and key results. So it's a kind of intermediate between those things, where you need some kind of guideposts, some kind of like points of alignment, where you know, okay, this, this direction or not that direction. So that's what I would advise. And then, yes, a strategy polarity that you come up with is one of these things. But if you want it more concrete, break it down into, okay, what are like big meta projects that you're, going after in the next quarter or in the next half year or whatever. You can define those things. It's not forbidden. And you can probably also kind of agree upon certain keystone projects that you want to be achieving, that you want to aim for, and without being, without it being super predict and control. It's just that, hey, let's set out an intention, and let's intend to do this. Good enough, but then at least it's clear what we intend to be doing.
Can I add something to that? Because you mentioned business plan and OKRs. So many Holacracy organizations work with the OKRs. I never understood how that worked, but it does for some. So I don't really have a valid perspective on that. But what I do understand often is kind of leaves people helpless is the financial aspect of planning, and how that breaks down into strategy. And I do think that you do need to have super high level of transparency of what are the real costs that this organization has to actually operate. And that would have to involve, earnings of the partners who invest. And what is the revenue of the organization in real time, and work with metrics, work along the metrics. The problem that we've been having in the for-purpose enterprise is that everybody steps in, and if there's no money, you don't make money. And you kind of hang on to your purpose alignment and say, okay, well, at some point money will come in. But actually, you need an extreme high level of engagement of everybody to actually make that money come in. The thing is, you don't rely on sales to make all the money, and everybody else is like, so why doesn't sales sell more? It's a collective responsibility. And I think that is sometimes missing in Holacracy-driven organizations, because you don't have a business plan in the conventional sense, but you need the metrics that create that create visibility and transparency on, on a weekly basis. Where are we standing? And even if we are a for-purpose enterprise or any other symbiotic enterprise that, has partners that aren't employed, and where there is no organization that legally is required to pay that money, that's very sovereign and self-organized and everything, but it often reduces the understanding that, fuck it, everybody here is in this, so that even if there's someone who is only holding 20% focus time, still needs to contribute to the organization to make money. And which metrics do we need to put into our tactical meeting so that we can see, are we actually achieving this? Because an organization that doesn't make money, it's like a person that doesn't breathe. It's going to die. So I think there's often a bit of a mismatch.
The purpose of life is not to breathe, but without breathing, it's not,
Yeah, exactly.
that's not working either.
My God, how often have we used that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I would like to add to what you're saying. Interestingly, we have just kind of this strategy meeting at Bike in Buenos Aires. We just been over the high season. So we had some business coming in, and we didn't really have, well, the rest of them didn't have the headspace to figure out what's more the, not the hard part of the doing the work. Now that we actually have passengers here, we need to do the work. And so I propose, and we've been through this strategy meeting as proposed as Encode and Holacracy One. Both of them are proposing a strategy meeting. And we've done that in the past. We had our heuristic, which was cool. And we tried to do this again this year, but the process got trunked in the middle, and we didn't continue. And I didn't want to push it either. I was just calling for a strategy meeting, but I was trying to sense into the other participants' tensions. Do they have attention about this? Are they even, they know this, the drill, they were exposed to it. And I let them be, and then nobody came back and said like, hey, we really need to finish this strategy session. So I let it go over there. And then the circle lead now came and say, listen, guys, this heuristic thing, it's not really working for me. It's cool when we know when we go in more specifically. It helps us navigate, but there are some specific that we need to that I feel like a circle lead that would help us prioritize our projects. So it ended up being something completely different than heuristic, but it was a meeting where there was coming and going about what were we distilling from reality and what was needed and what was lacking and what would be aspirational in these goals. And we tried it out, and we set some goals, like general goals, that then going to cascade into the sub-circles if they're needed. We're going to manage this in roles and everything. And everybody was fine with that. Now they have the feeling that, okay, if we need to add up, I don't know, 40% of the revenue so we can break even during the low season, it's much more clear than, use or sell more to the actual customer than look for new look for new customers, So I think both are necessary. I think both are necessary because one, it's an end goal. The other one, it's the navigation tool to get to that goal. And yeah, I felt the pain as well without the business plan. And I'm not really sure what we're all meeting with business plan. It could be a slippery slope because you can also get hanged on the, all the predict and control stuff. But there's some, when you see the business plan as something that is just a repository of assumptions that we need to go out and test, you have just a starting point. It's not the end point. This is what we know now. And this is what we think that we need to know. Let's iterate it. Let's check it with reality. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. Forrest concept.
If I may just briefly respond. So for me, it's beautiful that purpose is the boss and that everybody can interpret their own role and purpose and just go for it. It really liberates you as an individual, but also our brains and stuff. When we have a focus, when we have a goal, our attention turns more to the goal, and there's more likelihood that we actually achieve something concrete, unless everybody's free. And it's kind of in that playing field. When I listen to you, it's not really defined. There's not really a standard for it. It's kind of figure it out as you go. You can either use a strategy or not. People can interpret a strategy or not the way they want. It makes it really confusing. Whereas if you have a roadmap and some goals and some numbers, then it's like, let's go for it. Also it creates more of a team feeling when you have a common objective to accomplish. In comparison to now, it kind of feels like we're all independent entrepreneurs in a cooperative. That's different than all together as a team bringing in the money so everybody gets paid. And it's not really clear how to navigate that.
Can I say something to what you just said, Dan? I think what you said confirms my experience that strategy is made, and then nobody really takes the strategy fully serious. And I think that when you do make strategy, it needs to be part of the conversation, especially on operational tactical level, right? So, what I heard you say, like every role does whatever the role feels, but actually, and I see that more as circle leads accountability, rather than to set strategy, is to be aware of how much does that, what happens from role, feed into strategy, strategy feeds into purpose, or does not. And that is a conversation that rarely takes place. And I think that's what's missing, okay? So as a circle lead, I would take a look at the projects and get a sense at the overall projects, because as a circle lead, I hold the overall purpose of the circle. Look at the projects and say, is the project board and work that we all together experience in our tactical meetings, is that manifesting and embodying our strategy or not? And if it is not, that's attention.
Should be attention.
Yeah, it should be attention, okay? So the sense is the strategy not fitting, or is the role work randomly not serving strategy and surfacing that tension? I think that strategy is way underrated in most holacracy practice if it's done in a self-organized way. It's part of its strategy is highly operational, not aspirational. And I think that's often the missing link.
Maybe as a last question, are holacratic organizations using a measurement tool to measure the work in relationship to purpose? How much impact are we measurably making towards our purpose? And B, a second measurement tool, how much is the work contributing to our goals or our required financial result? Or like, because they're not the same. You can make a hell of a lot of purpose impact and make no money, or you can make a lot of money and not make purpose impact. And these things would really help. Do these tools exist to measure the output, the result, the project?
I mean, the purpose is a very abstract thing. So how do you even start to think about measuring it? Unless you say, well, no. No, it's usually some kind of value you want to bring into the world, and when you concretize that, then you can work with in terms of projects and next actions. Then there's certain metrics you can look at which give you an indication whether you are on track or off track, and which ones of these are really depends on what the purpose is. You cannot really say. Financial health certainly is always a factor that you should look at for the reasons Christiane mentioned, that you need to breathe. Everybody needs to get paid and have some kind of livelihood, and to be able to do the work for purpose. But beyond that, there could be any kinds of metrics that may or may not be relevant for you. Sometimes the thing you can, sometimes what the tricky thing about metrics is not everything you can measure makes a difference, and not everything that makes a difference you can measure, right? So and you need to keep that in mind when you set up these metrics. And often we make the mistake of measuring things that really don't make a difference either way, like a number of subscribers. Yeah, what the fuck, who cares if they are not converted into like paying customers or something like that. That's the metric we should be looking at. What's the conversion rate or something like that? But often people end up with so-called vanity metrics, where you just you kind of give yourself a warm fuzzy feeling that everything is going in the right way when you're just leading yourself astray. So what is a metric that would make a difference, that would cause you tension? if the metric would never cause you tension either way, then it's just not a very useful metric. You can just not measure it. It's fine. But if it's a metric where when it goes up or it goes down, it would make, would lead you to change course or do anything, do anything differently, then you should maybe take that into account and track it.
You know that can I chip in here? I'm sorry, Dennis, are you?
No, I'm fine. You can
it's interesting that we have back in Buenos Aires, we have also posed this question as well. It's really interesting. I mean, if we are purposeful endeavor, we are a for purpose enterprise. How the fuck should we know if we are actually achieving our mission or not? We're following True Purpose Institute, so we have essence, impact, mission, and message. It's a little bit easier to, it's not so ethereal. So we know, this utopical place I want to arrive to, and we know how we're impacting people. So how can we actually assess that? And that's a question that still drives us. And we have created a role that is called purpose operation, which has the purpose of operativizing our purpose in the products that we are selling. And to give you an example, we turned into a purpose enterprise in 2020-21. And I've been during high season, I've been out on tour with the guides who were, previously employed in the company and delivering their product. And I truly saw that there was no purpose in it. I mean, there was cool things. There were, it was the same tour that we were doing before we were a for-purpose enterprise. So now I have captured a project, a really big project to change many of the things that we have going on in the company, starting with the guides that we're hiring, to make every guide a partner, to pay better, to have less working days, to have more training, and to have a design of the product that will make sure that our understanding of our purpose will be there present. It will be something that we can actually go and check. To give you an example and to make it more concrete, our impact is that we're broadening travelers' consciousness to reveal our connected uniqueness. Broadening travelers' consciousness to reveal our connected uniqueness. So how the fuck do we know that? How do we know if we have connected this uniqueness? How do we know? So actually, this is the work that we have been doing and I have been doing, which is basically comes down to an interpretation. And the interpretation that we follow along is that we are broader and we are actually gaining that. We're doing our impact when we are connecting with their customers. And how do you connect? The same way that you do, and with the same difference that you have with a really good song and with a really good friend. A really good song can really get to your heart, but you can never talk to a song, right? You will never be related to a song more than it affects you. You are passive in this relationship with this piece of music. As where with a friend you have a coming and going. You have a relationship that you connect. You can be affected or you can be connected. Connected, therefore, means shut the fuck up and stop talking so much in a tour and allow people to make the tour work, so you can introduce some part of the culture and yourself, and then you allow the customers and the packs talk and chip in and show up who they are and make those connection points. So at the end of the tour, you can actually put them in front of the table and say like, well, this is what happened. This is what we figured, that in our differences we're really similar. We all do the same. We all do this stuff, but differently. We all do it. We all care about this stuff, but we do it differently. And that's how we found it. Again, this is an interpretation. So there is no truth, revealed truth behind that. It's just an interpretation, but that's what we got. And I will let you know how it goes. I'm not sure how it's gonna even work or not. I'm sorry, I overextended it, but
no, it's fine. Was that helpful for you, Dan?
It was great. I got a lot out of it. I know what to do. So thank you so much.
Okay, great. All right, let's look at Cassiana's question here. Walk crosslink.
Yeah, so one thing that isn't, I don't experience it anywhere outside of the PowerShift ecosystem, that one organization invites a crosslink of another organization into either its anchor integration or operational general operations circle, right? And it's a pretty simple question, but so does in which direction does a crosslink process tensions in one direction only? Or does the crosslink process, let's say here's organization A and organization B. Organization A invites organization B to energize a crosslink, right?
Mhm.
So in which direction does that role process tensions? From B to A, or from A to B, or both?
Yeah, so crosslinks were this concept from Constitution 4.1, right? So we
Is
don't
it
have
not in 5 anymore?
no, there's no crosslinks
It
anymore.
doesn't forbid it. Okay.
No,
Okay.
that's gone. So what you do is you invite roles to participate in from other circles and within one holarchy, to participate, and so they can just the ones where there's a lot of need to exchange data or to be informed, or there's a lot of operational kind of interwovenness, and there needs to be some kind of communication channel that's direct and not like across up the chain and then down the chain or something like that, right? So in between organizations, well, the organization that invites somebody to join would like to integrate the perspective of that other context. So they
Yeah.
yeah, but you cannot invite yourself to another organization. That's clear. So it's not like
No.
right.
No, I understand that.
Right. I mean, it could be one way, one direction, it can be both direction, be it a bi-direction, depending on what if that person or if on the other org a similar role exists, channeling the tensions from org A to org B. Sure, then it can be bi-directional. But the question, so the role that joins is always about bringing tensions in from the outside and having the permission to process those tensions from the entity that invites them.
Yeah, thanks, Jonah, for the link. Yeah, but so okay, let me try and get a little bit more clear on my unclarity.
Mm-hmm.
So organization A has to have attention to actually invite another organization in. I mean, it's probably correct what you're saying, that it can process tension both ways, right? But if A has attention and now wants to invite a crosslink, then it's actually the expectation is that the crosslink takes that tension back into B. Whereas it's a bit confusing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why they abandoned the concept of crosslinks. If you read the purpose of a crosslink, you were totally confused. What's the purpose of a rep link actually? But with the crosslink, it was modeled on the rep link purpose, and it was also a hell lot of confusion. So what you need to know is, let's see. So let's see, we have two organizations here. Let's say there's one org, let's say this green one here. Let's send their link to the other organization. So the white organization receives it and gives it permission, so that because it's valuable for the white organization that this context is being included for whatever reason. So they invite this role to represent those tensions on the board level or GCC level. So this person now, so if the white organization now has a tension, sure, they would also want a cross link. So if they want to not just rely on the person that's sitting there to be just taking whatever the person hears and processes in the other direction, they don't want to rely on that just by, or maybe they can rely on it, then they don't need to formalize it. But if they want to formally be part of the governance of the other organization, the role that has been invited here is formally part of the governance of the organization, has been invited to, and cannot be, just dismissed or shut up or whatever, because it has been granted permission by a constitution to process a perspective in governance and in tactical meetings, etc. Has all the duties and responsibilities of a role filler and so on and so forth. So that's a very different thing than to say, hey, you can sit in on our board meetings and give us a perspective. No, you can actually affect our governance and affect our strategy and affect our everything. It's a pretty huge concession.
Yep.
So yeah, and if you want to make it direct.
Sorry, Dennis, if I interrupt you, but I think that was actually very helpful, because what you sort of made more clear for me is the fact that does it actually need an operational role to clarify some tensions that navigate the relationship to outside entities? That's one thing. Or do we want the perspective of another entity inside our organization, and that has the power and the authority to affect our governance, our tacticals, and so on, more in general? So that differentiation made it that was useful, because that helps me now process attention.
It's I think it's similar to do you want it's almost like, hey, I can make a pitch to you or I can ask a project of you, but I can only ask a project of you if you have a role that the project fits to, etc. Right?
Yeah. So that maybe to make it more clear, but I think I can say I got what I need, because the clarity that I realized is having a relationship with an outside entity can be very operational and just can be anchored in a role that navigates an agreement with the outside entity, versus having a crosslink that is continuously present in our structure, and therefore plays a role as every other role would, and can, like you said, cannot simply be shut up or neglected and say, we don't want to have that perspective now.
Right,
so,
right.
That's cool. Thank you, Dennis. I mean, unless somebody else has something to add, but I think I got what I need.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept from also when, the first thing I read about Holacracy from Brian back then, he wrote this kind of interview with himself, this fake interview, whatever, and he wrote about cross-organizational meshworking back then already, kind of an aspirational idea or something like that, which I found like super fascinating to have all these self-organized entities that form meshworks that are they gain traction maybe and gain weight and from regional to branches to even up to a national level or international level. So the bottom-up growth of self-organized networks taking over our nation states, that was the kind of the big vision behind it. And what made that give it teeth was that concept of actually not just having people on the board, but actually giving them a real seat, a real voice that needs to be integrated and as a context, like let's say the context of a region, of a bioregion, like of a whole industry or whatever, that you so that organizations have to pay attention to the things that they're normally externalizing to their environment, right? So the environment, you invite the environment back into the organization, so the environment can channel kind of all the damage that you would otherwise do to it back into you as information, so you can maybe be more considerate to the overall environment, which would help both the organization and the environment thrive, right? So I still think it's a fascinating idea that we should totally do. But since, you know, organizations have usually enough on their plate, and mostly those that what it would entail is strategic disadvantage in some level, or because it's cost intensive. Usually if you invite other perspectives in, it means that it's more costly in a way that you let's say it's environmental concerns that you invite to your board. Let's say, oh, you invite an NGO into your board and they tell you, oh, you can't use so much CO2. So now your competitor uses more CO2 and gets a greater market share and kind of buys you up in the end or whatever. So
but honestly, sorry, Dennis, if I interrupt you, but I mean, that's taking, I'm aware of sort of my attention that I've brought in, but I love what you're saying.
It's just my
very
my
much
rambling.
like, actually, it's very relevant for Dan, I should think, with your ecosystem mapping project that you have, and then also it's a bit like the network state. I don't know if you know that the book and the website, and I just love the work that this guy is doing, and it should be actually way more present in the self-organized world. So thank you. Anyway, I got what I need.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, anything else from you guys? Soft skills. What you got?
Yeah, I was also interested to ask Dennis if you wanted to add your own tension to keep deploying your thoughts.
My own tension to what? To the
on the comments on Christian. I know it's just
oh yeah, it was just a you know these kinds of, oh yeah, let me add this. Can I jump onto this? And but it's not important enough to bring your own point, interestingly.
Yeah, no, I'm just teasing it with you, Dennis, of course.
But, good as an so soft skills.
I was so here I am trying to make this scholarship thing and just at work. I'm still not letting go of it. I truly believe in it, and I'm trying to find what's the pain, what's the real problem, what kind of worth paying problem can we solve for the world. And I'm finding, and I've been talking to a lot of people about this, obviously the value proposition as of now, it's not really moving any needle or not solving any pressing problems. It's kind of a nice to have thing. And one of the things that now I'm trying to validate is the fact that there's a need for people who want to do a new type of work in the world to do it, but they don't have the soft skills to come in and do it. That also means that companies that might want to start doing it might also lack the internal resources to train people on that regard. Holacracy, I would say that it's a hard skill for the new world of work because it's a whole thing in itself. It might be easier to deploy internally, but I have this vision of this place where people can come in and learn and certificate and validate their knowledge, and they're ready to just be plugged into a company where you just do work. You know, even though just at work, I hate it. I hate just at work as a name. But something that can get people ready for doing the new world of work and be plugged into a company as a partner of PowerShip people and so on. So what I've been asking, sorry for the long, well, I'm not sorry, but this is just the intro for all of this. and then what I've been asking different people that are related to the Holacracy and the PowerShift ecosystem is what kind of skill set, what kind of soft skills are required for somebody to actually thrive as a Holacracy practitioner or self-organized system practitioner? You know, what kind of soft skills, even with ChatGPT coming in and maybe threatening all the hard skills that people might bring in, and how important it's now the soft skill part of the deal, you know? How can you actually train people and the soft skills? So the question here would be, what do you think, so question one, do you think that there are soft skills that could better predict if a person will be thriving in a self-organized organization? That's one. If so, which are the skill sets, the soft skills that you think that would help them thrive? And question three, do you think those skills can be taught and can be learned directly and not just by, you know, experience in time and in life? You know, those are the three things that I wanted to.
Go ahead, take it away, Christiana.
What do you, just one question, give me one example. What do you mean by soft skills?
So for example, having a high threshold for frustration when you're not nailing it with new frameworks, with new, you know, doing something new and you're just not nailing it, you know? That would be one. Frustration. I'm not sure if I'm phrasing it right? So I'm just trying to get the spirit of it. Being proactivity in the sense that you're not holding on until somebody comes and tells you what to do. I have it mapped here. I don't have it by heart, but are you kind of am I helping you to get what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's actually really interesting because this is, if I may say so, this is at the core that my work has been over the past 10 years. And it's so interesting because why the difficulty that you're addressing with your question is the fact that what you call soft skills are the soft skills connected with this new way of working autonomously and self-managed are the skills that require unlearning and new learning.
Right.
And because that unlearning and new learning is so difficult for many people, it is so difficult to learn the skills necessary. This, I would love, Jonah, to have a meeting with you about that and what that might have to do with just.work or with PowerShift people, because it is also something that we are addressing in PowerShift journeys, where actually the question is, we know from the last 15 years that the difficulty that so many people are running into are the limitations of their own mindset. And there are people even there that are super conscious, super aware. And then there is still those limitations of self-awareness, actually. And so PowerShift Journeys is now inviting psychedelic journeys into opening up your mindset and to help with that threshold, right? But not everybody is willing to go on a psychedelic journey. We'll have
Or
more
have the funds, or have the funds to actually access it, because I really want to do it and I don't have the funds to go and do it.
Yeah, okay, well then let's make it happen, okay? And I have I have so much to say about that.
Let's do an STM. Let's put it. Maybe you want to leave some. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, let's do an STM and we can invite everybody, everybody in. I don't know, but maybe we can start with a one-on-one and explore the relevance for PowerShift people.
Yep, totally. actually, my whole take on this is that I want to have a PowerShift academy, much more than just at work. So a place to come together to learn how to do this, to have simulations of work being done in the new way. So you not only knowing the theory, but you also put it into practice. So there's a lot of things happening, you know. So a lot of people might be interested much more wider than just, you know, purpose agents that are what, 20 in the world, purpose agent for FPs that are what, 6 in the world. So
Let's talk. Let's talk.
it's good. Yeah, I would love any other inputs for
Yeah,
everybody else.
Dan's got his hand up for
Yeah.
a long time already.
Thank God I don't have to actually hold it up, so not tired. Yeah, I shared a document here, Jonathan, and this is very alive for me also. Like, what is like the minimum skills that you need in order to function properly, to take responsibility, to not get too triggered and stuff. And I don't know if there's easy ways to assess it, but in the document you can read 5 key skills that we have, of which we think there are 3 are really required to be at the basic level. And this is very specific for GaiaNet, of course, for our purpose, our mission. We're a network, so we also have network and facilitation skills. But in order to be a role filler, you don't need to be proficient in that. But you need to have emotional maturity and some self-organization basics, and also some general organizational maturity. And I think it's a bit of a mix between some soft and hard skills, no? So maybe this document can inspire you, and feel free to use whatever you need.
Yes. Thank you.
I love it because I've been working with Flores in preparation for this. It's so cool to see this done. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really great. And I also created something else where I try to explain to role fillers how we innovate, and this connects to the other conversation we had. So this document might also serve as inspiration for you to see if people get it when they read this one pager of how you actually take action, basically, in a self-organizing structure. And then what would be required of you? And do you feel like comfortable with that kind of way of working or not? This could be another measurement.
Super funny that you have inflation correction. Welcome to my world. Thank you for that.
One,
yeah, well,
And
thank you. Yeah.
one more thing. Jonah, you said, let me think. Oh yeah, the learning, how to learn that without actually being sort of involved with it. That's tricky.
If it's teachable, no, yeah, it's tricky, and it's also tricky. It's a tricky question.
I think it's practically impossible.
Mhm.
So I think what could be a good learning context, and that's where I get excited, is to make it a lab.
Yep.
To make it a real life lab.
Yep.
And
Yep.
back to our STM.
Yep, and then you can get PowerShift tokens, so you're gonna spend it. So you get tokens for simulated, and you know, this coming together. The whole idea. Hey, let's do an STM soon, please.
And I'm coming back in with language of spaces, because that's where the individual, the separate pointers of what is it exactly that I need to learn here just really pop up.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Cool. Dennis, what about you? Do you have any takes on this, or maybe you want to? I'm not really good at lip reading. Maybe you want to unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's the mental demands of modern life, and then there's the mental demands of working in a self-organized organization. And yeah, and there are certainly certain. So one thing that just occurred. I had when was it? Session. Oh yeah, we did this yesterday I did this webinar on Holacracy Practice Check. So we invited people who practice Holacracy or think they practice Holacracy, and to show them like a list of 18 indicators that would characterize healthy Holacracy practice from our point of view. And it turned out that one of the indicators was actually to practice something akin to GTD, some individual system of self-organization. And it was like, for some, was like, what? Never heard of it. It's like, oh my God. It's like, really. So I don't know if it qualifies as a soft skill. It's rather a skill, I guess, a skill of being a good knowledge worker, I guess, these days. So you better be able to organize your work in a calendar and a project list and a next action list and all those good lists and so on. But that seems to be something that is still dearly missing, and I think it would be a great enhancement. Then, of course, the skills of being able to differentiate role and soul, like on a very basic level. And then I think that that's really a challenge for people on earlier levels of self-development who are identified with, being a good member of a group, like being a good whatever, pick your term. And so they want to, I think they just got around to identify with that, with a certain kind of expertise, let's say, and they don't want to differentiate, or they're fused with that identity. So for them to differentiate between role and soul must feel like ripping apart or totally destabilizing to what they think they are. And so it's kind of this that's not being talked about, but this is kind of implied in what Holacracy does. And so it kind of, I think you need some level of, and not that you cannot fill roles in such an organization or as such a person. I think you can, but it's not that you would, I don't know. I think it would be a challenge to run into this forced differentiation. So a soft skill, learning, I think I would underline that one. And I think it can be also disorienting to work in a holacratic organization in the sense that formal structure is constantly shifting under your feet. And that is, for certain types of people, it's destabilizing or disorienting. Okay, yesterday this was the rule and now this is the rule. Because we need to adapt to reality. Makes sense, but for some people they prefer stability and clear, like not changing expectations, something they can rely on in a sense. Luciana?
That's great. Not being able to differentiate, and that's when language of spaces come in and get light to a way of trying to differentiate. This is really good.
If you bring kind of the mental apparatus to kind of,
and this brings me back to something that what I also seen and I witness is that many adoptions, the 2-3 that I've seen, mostly start with somebody who's wanted to let go of being a CEO or something really high, owner or whatever, and they have attention. But mostly people below that person mostly don't have attention, and they're just receiving an instruction that, hey, my last heroic action as a CEO is that you are going to do something better. You got to do something cool, and you got to like it. We know that most of the people, if they have we don't know. I think that most of the people that are not really exposed to this they might say like, okay, well, let's try it. I don't know the whole thing. I haven't tried. I have no experience about it. Let's try it. And then along the way, they started dropping off. And my feeling is that as you don't have attention for changing the way that you're doing work as of now, and you're not really able to suck it up because you need to get paid. So pretty much the untensioned part of doing this new type of work could also be really, devastating in the back of the mind of the people. That's, again, Christiana.
So there is a historic, from my perspective, historically, there is a misunderstanding about holacracy, and a lot of the providers, I think, have fed into that misunderstanding, and that is the holacracy is sort of that is going to be the coolest thing ever, and it's going to empower everybody, and it's going to be, you're going to be, holacracy is going to make you agile and self-managed, and it's just sort of, and only in the past year, I would say, is there something in the world out there that says holacracy is not for everybody, kind of thing. And that may be part of that. People tend to be very hyped about new things. It's a personality type kind of thing, right? And then what rarely actually is in the awareness of the people who make the decision to go into holacracy is the personal journey that it requires for everybody. For some less than others, but it certainly is. And I think that's what you're addressing with the soft skills. I just really, I'm so super passionate about that, because what I experience, and I have been wondering, and maybe we can also have a conversation about that, I would like to ask Dennis also about that, is everybody knows that the biggest problem that holacracy runs into is the differentiation of role and soul, but nobody really does anything about it, because if you implement holacracy, it costs a lot of money, right? And then to actually do something about the differentiation, and we, as an FPE, we've defined the people context, and the language of spaces called it people context long before ENCODE and the FPE did it. Nobody is really interested in investing time and substantial money into that aspect of the shift. And that's why it continues to remain a problem. My lamenting perspective on that.
Yeah, the pain. I think, so again, actually, funnily, we had an association meeting today at Expreneurs, talking about this, topics like this, mainly like inner work versus like the operational work of the organization. So we had a strategy meeting recently, and figured, there were some tensions that need attention, and also like, that led us into looking at the personal development aspect again, and we did like, the process, like the immunity to change process, something like that, by Robert Keegan and stuff like that. So we toyed around with that, and today the question arose again: hey, should we? How much time should we need a format or something, a container to, bring up these development topics more often, or should we not, or something like that, right? And there's always, of course, there's a a balance that needs to be struck between creating value like operationally and thus generating resources to be even able to do that kind of inner work, right? And it's kind of because the inner work is a long-term investment in the health of the organization, the health of its people, and certainly important, but it's never urgent or rarely urgent, let's say. So most organizations, and you said it yourself, that have already invested a lot of money in Holacracy, said, okay, now enough change for now. We need to do our work in the world, and we can't just be navel gazing all day long. And the swapping the operating system is already feels like a kind of navel gazing moment for the organization, because in that, we need to invest in that in the Holacracy skills, and then beyond that, in the people skills, so that they can even use Holacracy properly and without freaking out or something. That seems like a big ask for many organizations.
Yes. And Dennis, what you're addressing is the shadow of Holacracy. That is the shadow side of Holacracy. And I really, really, really would like to cry that out, because what the hell, you have people who need to do this work, right? And Holacracy is such a concise and genius model to structure work in a self-organized way. And the fact that you then say, yeah, we need to do the work, but then that work needs to be done by people.
Sure.
And let the people do whatever, let the people Holacracy,
Yeah, I mean, it's a resource constraint, clearly. So and the resource constraint is based on, of course, resources are never constrained by themselves. They're constrained by what we value. So apparently we don't value it as much to to bring our people up to speed and invest in them, etc. That's just brutal reality.
Just what I wanted to know from just.work. I'm sorry, Dan, but I need to vomit this, because otherwise I'm going to explode. I know you have your hand up. That's why I'm saying this. Now it's becoming clear to me that this might be the whole problem of this non-scaling, because we're putting the weight on the company to develop the people, where the people might be developing by themselves in another context that's much more appropriate for this. Fuck, this is why we need PowerShift Academy, or what we need this group of, this is exactly what you just said. This is the validation that I needed. This is the fucking thing that I wanted to get started with. Because again, we're putting all the pressure in the company to develop all the people, to do the work in a self-organized manner. Fuck it, if you want to be an adult, go and do that, separately, and have it in mind that the company might not be the best fit for training you in that sense. And it makes sense, and now it's logical that they're not doing that internally. I rest my case.
Yeah. Okay, Dan has his hand up so long, but if I may,
That's so rude, man. You just talk through each other and stuff. Didn't you learn anything with your Holacracy practice? Huh?
Not Holacracy. This is your agile thing. This
We're talking about people
communication
stuff,
thing.
about how mature we are in our emotional. Anyway, I'm kidding, not kidding.
No, you're not kidding.
Yeah. No,
so
but
this whole idea of Holacracy is for everyone or not, and if you want to work in this kind of way with each other, it comes with a price, and there's no alternative, right? And what we found is why it kind of worked quite okay with us, because we've all done tremendous amount of personal development before we started working in Holacracy. So we've grown as an individual, but in a traditional organization, guys, this is no different. Huh? Like in the office, how people treat each other like shit and don't communicate honestly and transparently. You also need all this kind of personal development plans, and companies don't invest in it. Now, we have talked about this, if we should make this internally and make resources available to train the people at these levels, but I'm thinking no, that's not how it works. You come in the environment, you interact with others, you get triggered, you've got stuff going on. This is for you an indicator that you've got work to do internally. You go home and you clean up your house and you come back to the work again. We're here to coordinate work. Holacracy is not here to coordinate people, evolve people, relationships, whatever. It's to coordinate work in the pursuit of purpose. And I've contemplated on this, like, is it worth it? You know, is it worth to go through all this conflict and tensions between people and this mental space that it works? But I really sat on this for like an hour 2 weeks ago, and I just can't come up with an alternative. There's no other way to coordinate work together without the abuse of like power over each other. For me, there's no alternative, but it comes with a price. So everybody you invite into an organization like this need to be framed properly. Like, look, we're going to work self-organized. You're going to get triggered. It's going to be frustrating. And you have the responsibility to self-study, and you have the responsibility to evolve yourself in your own time from the things that are blocking the work with other people in relationship to them. Now, we regularly reflect on what has Gaianet brought us, what has Holacracy brought us, and we are all like in alignment that we have changed the most in our life since we started working like this, and the reward is just worth so much for the individual. And that is like the bonus that you get when you take responsibility and process it in your own time. But I don't think it belongs with the organization and in the context of the enterprise.
I really, really think this is, I'm so glad that this is recorded, because then this is exactly the point. When I say it's the shadow side of Holacracy, is that or shadow side of the implementation of Holacracy, it is not the organization's work to develop the people. And this Holacracy has been saying that forever, right? But so the question is, so what then? I think it is the organization's work to say, if we practice Holacracy and work in a self-organized way, we need, the organization has the responsibility to navigate role and org fit, right? And just not kind of take on everything and then say, oh, it's so difficult, it's so hard, right? Now I'm looking at that from the organizational perspective, right? So like you just said, if I want to work in a self-organized context, I need to know that this requires me to deal with my shit, right? And then not go lamenting and saying, oh my God, Holacracy is so cold, and oh my God, this is just blah, blah, blah. We all need to... Right?
The problem is that for some people, it's not like, oh, I choose to work in a company that works holacratically. It's like, oh, my boss says, oh, now we're a Holacracy. I didn't choose to. Now I can go for look for a new job, or simply swallow that toad. And well, it's a different thing. I mean, I remember us coming together with Encode, all purpose agents drawn to the purpose and drawn to the work together, and agreeing to be guinea pigs for each other, and so on and so forth. But that's not the case for 99.9% of the other Holacracy implementations.
But how many people came in and stepped out fairly short term again? Because it was clear, no org fit, right? And it was always the challenges around Holacracy and the self-organizing practice. And that's just, yes. But what you're addressing are those organizations where someone, the boss says, okay, we're going into Holacracy, and then they go into Holacracy, and there's a tension here. And that tension has not been addressed in the times, and it's not Holacracy's work to address that. I'm holding up the banner for Holacracy. It's not, there's something missing. And that comes back to what you're saying, Jonah, about call it the PowerShift Academy or whatever, right? It's not Holacracy's work to develop people so that they can then work in Holacracy. By design, that's not Holacracy's work.
Yeah, well, Holacracy may not be Holacracy's work, but the organization may feel some kind of responsibility to aid or support its members in doing that kind of work.
Well, that's a question of how to shift from A to B, right?
What do you mean with A and B?
The A is the normal management. Ooh, the normal management hierarchy, and I just have to watch the time because I have a
Yeah, no,
A
let's
is
not.
management hierarchy, and B is a full self-organized entity, and Holacracy is just part of the journey.
Yeah.
Thank you for
And then-
validating my hypothesis. I got what I needed. Let's move along.
Okay,
Great.
let's go to the checkout round and wrap this up here. It was a rich discussion. Jonah, will you start us off? Your reflection on the meeting.
I'm really happy. I really needed this. It was not until now that I got this light bulb starting. There was something within me that was erupting, but now it makes sense in my mind, and it gives me a much more concrete sense of orientation on where this should be going. And I'm happy. I'm really happy because now I have regained my motivation to keep struggling and making this work. I truly believe in this. I would love to see a community of people wanting to do work in a different way and changing the world and connecting. And this is what I'm coming. This is my purpose. And I'm truly I'm on the verge of my tears, and it's really stupid, but yeah, I really needed this. So I'm really happy that I've been here today, and I'm really happy that you guys are sharing this with me. I feel it. I feel it again. And I'm really happy for that. It gives me new energy. So thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Beautiful. So Dan, first time. How was it?
That was fun. Thank you so much for the heated talks, discussions, insights, your wisdom of all of you. And I've also really enjoyed the other topics that were discussed. I got what I needed. I learned a lot of new things. And I'm left with the same conclusion, like there's only one way, and it's just forward. And there's a lot of stuff maybe unknown and needs more materialization or concretization in this, how we work together. But yeah, I don't think there's an alternative. So I learned that again, and I'm renewed with inspiration and motivation. So I'll pass it on to Dennis. How was it for you, Dennis, today?
Not a bad outcome. I will pass it on to Christian and then we conclude.
Yeah, I love this today. Jonah, you really touched my heart right now with your checkout. Dan, it's been so great to see you here, and I really loved your contributions. And Dennis, thank you for holding this space again. It's so awesome, and I'm super excited about all the different things that we talked about today. Yep, thanks and check out.
Yeah, thank you all, guys. Yeah, it's great to see how this is valuable for you, and how the insights you take out of this. And it was really lovely to connect with my Holacracy buddies here from all around the world. So it's a very intimate setting for me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next session and bring on the good stuff. Goodbye, guys. See you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Great day.
Guys.
Be good.
See you around.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.